The arrival of the architect, the other side of the horizon. 2 years after Walt Dukes was struggling to keep the lights on for the Baltimore Bullets and battling foul calls, a new kind of giant was emerging on the West Coast. He wasn't the slow, immovable rock like Dukes. He was a force of nature, all explosive energy, breathtaking verticality, and ferocious intensity. This was William Felton, Bill Russell. Russell's arrival was delayed by his pursuit of Olympic gold in 1956, but his legend preceded him. At the University of San Francisco, USF, Russell didn't just win, he revolutionized the game's defensive strategy. Where Dukes stood tall and altered the shot, Russell was a defensive architect who chased the shot. He used the newly emerging high jump technique to propel himself into the air, challenging, swatting, and redirecting everything that came his way. Russell's approach was aggressive, smart, and utterly unprecedented. He turned the basketball court into an intricate game of chess, using his body and speed not just for defense, but as the catalyst for offense. He was the fast big man, a defensive end playing center. And unlike the NBA, where Dukes was an isolated anomaly, Russell was surrounded by a team built to leverage his genius. A USF squad that won 55 consecutive games and 2 NCAA titles. The trade that shaped destiny. The draft day maneuvering that brought Russell to the Boston Celtics in 1956 was one of the most famous and well-documented transactions in sports history. Red Auerbach, the legendary Celtics coach and general manager, was obsessed with Russell's defensive potential. He knew that the key to winning wasn't just scoring more, it was preventing the opponent from scoring at all. To get Russell, Auerbach orchestrated a historic trade with the St. Louis Hawks, giving up the Celtics' homegrown star Ed Macauley and the rights to Cliff Hagan, both future Hall of Famers. It was an audacious move. A trade based on the sheer, unproven belief in one man's defensive gravity. The moment Russell joined the Celtics, the narrative of the NBA changed. Before Russell, the league was dominated by offensive centers, most notably George Mikan. After Russell, every team understood that a champion needed a defensive anchor. The first encounter, Dukes versus Russell. When Bill Russell finally debuted for the Celtics in December 1956, the league was forced to compare him to the only other true giant in the game, Walt Dukes, who was now playing for the New York Knicks after the Bullets folded and his rights were sold again. Their first head-to-head matchup was more than just a game. It was a confrontation between two opposing philosophies of the center position. Dukes, the pillar, tall, strong, standing his ground. His power was in his rooted immovability. He was the traditional post player seeking to establish deep position and score with the hook shot or the turnaround jumper. Russell, the Harrier, fast, springy, constantly moving. His power was in his disruptive range and his willingness to sacrifice a scoring opportunity for a defensive stop. In that first game, the contrast was stark. Dukes scored and rebounded effectively in the paint, but Russell was everywhere else. Russell's speed exposed the limits of Dukes' conditioning. While Dukes had to rely on sheer length, Russell used his vertical leap to deny Dukes' shots from the perimeter. Russell's ability to run the fast break and launch his team's offense immediately after a defensive rebound showed the league that the center could be a dynamic end-to-end player. Dukes, though immensely effective in the half-court set, was a bottleneck in transition. Russell's Celtics didn't just beat Dukes' Knicks, they outpaced them. The final score was less important than the realization that the game's evolution had been accelerated overnight. Walt Dukes, the pioneer, suddenly felt like a relic. The future had arrived, and it was fast.